When people first read the Allies of Humanity briefings, often they're very confused because the reality of life in the universe that it's revealing to us is very different than what we may have expected or what we think to be true. As a people, we have been conditioned to think of life in the universe largely based upon our films, our movies. Star Wars, Star Trek, War of the Worlds. And we think of the universe here as demonstrating our own values and level of consciousness. We imagine nations blowing each other up. We imagine huge empires and great wars. But the reality of life in the universe is actually very different. And sometimes that's confounding to people who read the Allies of Humanity for the first time. For the briefings themselves require that we reconsider our expectations, our assumptions, and perhaps even our myths about the reality of life in the universe and what contact with humanity would really mean and what it would really look like. For example, humanity thinks, or people tend to think, that we're very important in the universe, as if we're the center of God's creation, and that whoever would come here to benefit us, to give us gifts, to provide us technology or reveal higher levels of science, as if the universe existed to serve us in some way. We assume our significance here, but fail to see that other races would come here for their own purposes, which might not include our welfare at all. Another common idea that people have is that if a visiting race is not destroying us or attacking us, then they must be benign or beneficial, and that we should not fear them or be wary concerning them. The Allies of Humanity briefings reveal to us, however, that we're dealing with resource explorers, economic groups, groups seeking resources and alliances, seeking to position themselves within this conflicted world and to take advantage of a divided and contentious humanity. So naturally, they're not destroying us because we're part of the resource that they need. They're not destroying the world because the biological diversity of this world represents its fundamental wealth. They do not have weapons of mass destruction, and so they're seeking to gain their advantage here through other means, primarily through the power of persuasion, inducement, and intimidation. The Allies of Humanity briefings reveal to us that war and conflict in this part of the universe has been suppressed. It has been suppressed by older societies that have established long-standing networks of trade. And these networks of trade and the many nations that are involved with them suppress conflict and war between worlds. So actually war in our part of space is very rare. Yet what is also rare is freedom and free societies. And those races who are in the world today interfering with human affairs represent races that are seeking for advantage here. They will take advantage of our ignorance, they will take advantage of our conflicts, and they will take advantage of our superstitions, our expectations, our hopes, our fears. Because we really don't understand their nature and their purpose in being here, we then ascribe to that our own values and our own wishful thinking. So we hope and expect that all who would visit us would be here for our benefit. But that's a child's view of the universe. Think of the young adolescents entering the big city for the first time, expecting to meet wonderful people at every turn, expecting to be treated with respect and true accord, and finding out through tribulation or through personal failure that the reality is actually very different. We're risking now making critical mistakes in our decisions and in our perception of those races who are visiting the world today. We're making them for obvious reasons, But we're also making them because we're ignorant and we do not understand what we're dealing with yet. But one of the important things about the Allies of Humanity briefings is that the reality that it gives us about life in the universe is something we can understand. We know what competition is like between nations. We know what persuasion means and how it can be manifested. We know what deception is. We know from our own history how powerful nations have gained advantage with weaker nations without the use of force. By inducing those nations to become reliant upon technology from beyond their sphere of influence, bringing them into the world community, often to their great disadvantage, robbing them of their own leadership, their own religious traditions, bespoiling their cultures, and so forth. Now we're facing competition from the universe. And we're facing many of the same kinds of activities and deceptions that we exercise here on earth. So the reality of the intervention is not a mystery. It's actually a demonstration of nature. Competition and intervention are part of nature. Competition for environment, competition for resources. These are all part of the natural world. This is going on all the time at every imaginable level of life as we know it. But now we're in a different position. Instead of being the preeminent race in this world, we're facing competition from others whom we do not understand. We're facing intervention by races who want to remain secret, carry on their activities without human awareness or approval. And we do not realize the danger this poses to humanity's future and freedom. The Allies of Humanity briefings tell us what humanity will need to know and do in order to build human freedom and to secure it within this greater community of intelligent life into which we are now emerging. And it reveals to us, in terms we can clearly understand, what life is like and the competitive nature of life in the universe, and the skills that we must bring to bear to be able to function within this larger arena of intelligent life. For we're now the beginners in a great education, and this education cannot be provided by anyone here on earth. It can only come from two sources. It either comes from God, or it comes from those races who could be beneficial to us in the future. This education is vital for our future and our destiny as a free race in the universe. We neglect it at our own peril. It comes to us in a form that is simple, clear, and understandable, and unambiguous. But to provide a message of this clarity, it necessarily must dispel our assumptions, our beliefs, and our expectations that are really out of accord with reality and with life as it truly exists. Here the briefings are challenging us, but also encouraging us to recognize that we have the power and the responsibility as the peoples of this world to establish our own rules of engagement, to set boundaries for other races visiting our world, and to be vigilant for any kind of visitation or intervention that may occur in the future and that is already happening in our world today.